Good evening, Ward 7.
Good evening.
Oh, can we do a little bit better than that? Good evening, Ward 7.
Good evening.
Awesome, that sounds much better. So good evening again, Ward 7 friends, ANC commissioners, and our distinguished guests. My name is Dr. Delia Houshill, and I have the honor of serving as the Chief of Staff for Ward 7 Councilmember Wendell Felder. I would like to thank all of you for joining us this evening for the first of many updates and discussions on the RFK site. By show of hands, how many people are Ward 7 residents? Ooh, nice, I love it, okay. Keep your hands raised if you also live in the Kingman Park, Hill East, or Rosedale community. I love it, and from what I hear, there are lots of more people outside in the line, so I'm sure that number will get much higher. So again, thank you all for coming out, and just seeing the vast number of residents and neighbors in the audience demonstrates just how important this topic is to our community, which is why we also want to thank our very own Mayor Muriel Bowser and her leadership team from Events DC and DemPed for joining us tonight to provide updates. For those of you who may be wondering about what to expect this evening, Councilmember Felder will kick us off by providing an overview of what's been happening around the office for the last couple of weeks. We will also have an update from Events DC to share updates around the demolition of the site, and then we'll hear from our very own Mayor Muriel Bowser on her vision for the future of the site. And we know that there's a lot of excitement and discussions around what's happening at the RFK site. So we also want to use this meeting as an opportunity to hear from you all regarding any questions and concerns about the redevelopment of the site. But before we get started, I want to make sure that we go over a few house rules. First, the restrooms are to the left and right of the auditorium. Also, there are a lot of people in the room tonight, so we ask that you turn off your cell phones and minimize side conversations. As I mentioned earlier, we are here to listen to all of you. So after all of our speakers have presented, we will open up the floor for questions and answers. You also should have received an index card. If not, there's some at the front. And if you have questions and you're unable to ask them, we're encouraging you all to write those down, and we'll try to get to them during the Q&A. There is also a brief survey that we are asking you all to complete regarding your thoughts around the future of the RFK site. You'll see the QR code here. If you did not get to scan the QR code when you arrive, we encourage you to do so now and answer a brief survey about what you'd like to see at the RFK site. And I'm pretty certain that you all did not come here to hear me talk tonight. So with that, please join me in welcoming to the stage our very own Ward 7 Council member, Mr. Wendell Felder.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Houshill, for those opening remarks and for laying out the rules of engagement. I also want to thank everyone for coming out tonight to attend the meeting. As a part of this meeting, I wanted to use it as an opportunity to share updates with Ward 7 neighbors in terms of what my focus has been since becoming elected. Over the last, next slide, please. Over the last 6 weeks, one of my top priorities has been focused on standing up our office. When I first ran, I made a commitment to hire the best and brightest neighbors that our ward has to offer. To date, we have filled 7 of the 8 positions that we have available, and you will see all 7 of them here today. I want to take a moment to acknowledge them. You've already heard from my dynamic Chief of Staff, Dr. Delia Houshill, Lawrence Davin. Where's Lawrence? Lawrence is in the audience. He serves in the role as the Director of Constituent Service, where he oversees a team of 2, Francis Campbell and Louis Sawyer Jr., both which you may have met while being checked in. Murray Tonaway will serve in the role of our Special Assistant, and L.J. Chavez serves as our Legislative Director. If you have not already met them, I strongly encourage you to connect with members of my staff before the meeting is over. We're also in the process of wrapping up interviews for our Director of Communications. However, if you know of anyone that you think might be a good fit for our office, I strongly encourage you to tell them to go visit the council's website and submit their resumes. Next slide, please. Additionally, I'm proud to announce that we have attended over 30 community meetings, which includes ANC meetings, civic association meetings, nonprofit organizations, and faith-based groups. We've also responded to over 200 constituent service meetings. We've attended 15 public events. Furthermore, I've been spending a significant amount of my time meeting with key DC government agencies to get a better understanding of what their priorities are for the ward, as well as I share mine. I've also been meeting with my council colleagues and the mayor to share my budget priorities heading into the budget cycle. Next slide, please. Speaking of the budget, my team has sent out emails to ANC leaders, an administrative survey to civic association presidents, and everyday Ward 7 neighbors to get a better understanding of what their budget priorities are. It is not too late. As you can see, the QR code is on the screen, and there's also a piece of paper floating around where you can still fill it out and let us know what your budget priorities are. Next slide. I've also received several questions from neighbors around committees in which I serve. In addition to serving on the Committee of the Whole, I serve on the Committee of Health, the Committee on Human Services, the Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety, the Committee on Business and Economic Development, and lastly, the Committee on Public Works and Operations. Across those 6 committees, I oversee 118 agencies, boards, and commissions. So as you can see, I'm a little busy. We're also currently in the process of conducting our performance oversight hearings. So if there's an agency out there in which you want to compliment the work that they're doing within Ward 7, or if there's an agency that you want to make a complaint against because you feel like they aren't meeting your needs, please feel free to let me know. I also strongly encourage folks to sign up to testify. The hearing schedule is available on our council website. Next slide, please. When I ran, I used the slogan, "This is our ward and we're in this together," which is not just a tagline for me. It's a commitment to make sure that the voices of our ward are heard, and as a result, my office will be standing up several councils and task force. To date, we've established the Ward 7 Leadership Council, which serves as an opportunity to convene leaders across the ward to share what's happening within their respective communities. We're also establishing the Ward 7 Youth Leadership Council, which serve as an opportunity to elevate the voices of our young folks. The Economic Development Advisory Council to help guide economic development projects in the ward by leveraging best practices. The Education Task Force, which will help develop a specific Ward 7 education plan that meets the needs of our everyday families. And I also want to let folks know to be on the lookout for our listening sessions in which we plan to kick off in the spring. Next slide, please. So as many of you are aware, Ward 7 has long been overlooked when it comes to major investments and large-scale development projects. The RFK site offers a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change that. With thoughtful planning, we can bring new businesses, create good-paying jobs, drive economic growth in a part of the city that deserves its fair share of prosperity. We can also prioritize affordable and mixed-income housing, expand retail and commercial opportunities, attract grocers, and build much-needed recreation space for our families and our young folks, build a local economy around our waterfront, and perhaps even create a new home for the Washington Commanders. Now, Regardless of what is developed at the site, my firm belief is that Ward 7 needs an anchor to drive economic development throughout the ward and to create revenue to fund more programs like housing, education, programs for our seniors, and even meet our infrastructure needs. So as you can see, the future development of RFK site is very important to our ward and the entire city, and that's why I felt so strongly about hosting tonight's meeting, which will serve as the first of many discussions on the topic. And so with that, I'm going to turn things back over to my Chief of Staff, Dr. Hasid, so she can keep the meeting rolling. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Felder, for those wonderful updates. And so with that, I'll invite our next speaker to the stage, Dr. Stephen Johnson from Events DC, who's here to provide us with some updates on the demolition. Let's give him a round of applause.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Stephen G. Johnson, Executive Vice President of Events DC. I just want to I'll be remiss if I didn't first thank Mayor Muriel Bowser. Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership. Thank you for your steadfast commitment to the community and everything that we do. I've had the opportunity to work for Mayor Bowser for many years, and it's truly a pleasure to serve under her leadership. I also like to thank Deputy Mayor Albert for just being a steadfast supporter of creating opportunities for economic development for the city and the entire region and everything that we do. On behalf of our President and CEO, Angie M. Gates, I'm here this evening to give an update in regards to the RFK Stadium demolition project. Events DC has been very committed in making sure that we provide updates and information pertaining to the RFK demolition project. As a part of the pre-demolition, Events DC put together a comprehensive plan that was submitted to the National Park Service. It was a very rigorous process that we had to undergo just to make sure that all of the protection in regards to the environmental safety and regulatory requirements were adhered to. Some of those processes included conducting an environmental assessment that had to be approved not only by the National Park Service, but also by the Environmental Protection Agency. Additionally, we work with various departments, the regulatory agencies of the District of Columbia, the Department of Buildings, with input by DOEE, the Department of Energy and the Environment, as well as DDOT, Department of Health, and other regulatory agencies. That was very important as a part of the pre-construction project, just to make sure that we did all of the proper measures that were very essential to this project. Once we actually got the actual approval from the Department of Buildings as the raised permit, then we proceeded with the project. Next slide, please. Some of those items included in 2023, we had an abatement of the site. That included the testing of the soil to make sure that we had all of the projects in regards to the hazardous materials being removed from the site, such as the PCBs, that was the actual presumed to be asbestos, lead paint, and all of the various hazardous materials that are part of the materials in that actual site. So we've been very methodical, in particular in terms of what we do. We've taken our time as a part of this project. It would not be an implosion. We would make sure that we taking care of these measures throughout the entire process, not just in 2023, but throughout the entire demolition process. Also, I wanted to speak in terms of what some of the measures that Events DC, along with our general contractor, which is Smoot Construction of Washington, D.C. Smoot is a certified business enterprise, a CBE, and they also have made sure that various local and small businesses are included in this project. As a part of the DC code with DSLBD, the general contractor have a 35% subcontracting agreement. We made sure as a part of our requirements, we made it a 50% requirement. That was very important to us in terms of our commitment to local and small businesses, just to make sure that everyone have an opportunity and a fair shot. Also, as a part of this, we wanted to make sure that we are regulating the general contractor. So what we've done is make sure that we hired a third-party consultant just to make sure that all of the requirements that's been put in our plan is adhered to. Those are the federal and the local plans. Some of those things that we've done have included making sure that we have noise control, make sure that there's air quality that's constantly being conducted throughout the entire process, rodent control, not just at the beginning, but throughout the entire process. I want to highlight and note that there's no rodent infestation at RFK, and we're very pleased about that. Additionally, I wanted to highlight the fact that we have also employed, that's important, because some of the questions that we make sure that we communicate with the community. We have various quarterly meetings, and we get feedback and information just to make sure that we constantly modify and put your comments and recommendations in the modification of our plan. Also want to highlight that we have employed various security cameras at the RFK site, just to make sure that we're making sure that the site is secured, that feed actually go back to our master control center, and that we can monitor the site. We've have made sure that we put a fence around the area just to make sure that it's secured. And also as a part of this process, we making sure that I mentioned earlier that it's not going to be an implosion. It will be various sections of the project that we're taking as a part of the demolition, just to make sure that we can suppress and make sure that we're controlling the dust to the site. So we're going to have various water cannons that will be deployed to the actual site just to make sure that we can suppress and control that. It's very important that we make sure that it's less impact on the community as possible. So as a part of that, we submitted and got approval from DDOT, a traffic control plan, just to make sure that we had those construction vehicles that are limited and mainly on the major arteries as opposed to the neighborhood roads. That was something that was very, very important to us. Next slide, please. So where are we now? We're constantly involved in the community engagement. We constantly want to hear from you. Your feedback and suggestions and recommendations are very important to us. And one key value that we have is open and transparency. As a part of that, we also put a camera that just focuses on the demolition. It's a live webcam that goes back to the Events DC website. That's eventsdc.gov, in which you can watch it in real time. So that's very important in terms of open and transparency, just so you could not just take information in terms of materials, but also you can watch that directly, and then also continue to make suggestions to us so we could continue to modify our plan. I also want to just pause and just acknowledge the Events DC staff who are joining me today. These are individuals who are constantly Ward 7 and in the community. We have a full-time community engagement team who is here. Bria, come up front. Can you stand, please? Just so you get acknowledged. I'm sure you all see her in the community. Thank you, Bria. Also the team that's construction and strategic initiative, and the team. Will you all please stand to Senior Vice President Operations. Everyone please stand. Scott, everybody. So that's the team as well as here. So these individuals are involved in community engagement. Again, we want to hear from you. We don't have all the answers. We want to listen, and we want to hear from you and take your recommendations and suggestions and make modifications to our plan to adhere to your needs here in the community. Also, I want to suggest that as a part of our general contractor, Smoot, they have their website as well. So if you see that there's opportunities for to be engaged in terms of additional small businesses, as I mentioned earlier, they have a 50% subcontracting obligation, and we want to make sure that there's opportunities that are provided to small businesses, not just throughout the city, but right here in this ward. So that's very important to us as well. I want to just show an actual QR code that we have. We'll just leave that up. That way you can contact us directly at Events DC. But if you have any comments or suggestions, again, we welcome them. And I look forward to being here for the evening to answer any questions that you all may have. Thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for those great updates and for clarifying any misinformation around the demolition of the site. I know we've gotten a lot of questions around the demolition, so we really appreciate you coming to provide those updates. Next, I ask that you join me in welcoming our very own Mayor Muriel Bowser to the stage to share her vision for the future of the RFK site.
Well, good evening, everybody. I am really happy to be here. I want to thank Councilmember Felder for the invitation to address Ward 7 once again. It's been a little bit of time since we were together at the invitation of the Kingman Park Citizens Association, where we talked about the community's desires and what we were working on for the RFK site. I am pleased to report that we're in a much better situation today than we were then, because then we were still fighting for control of RFK. And many of you have heard me say for a long time, at least the 10 years that I've been mayor, that the district has got to get control of the 177 acres on the banks of the Anacostia River. And I am pleased today to report to you, as has been widely reported by now, we have control of 177 acres on the banks of the Anacostia River. So I have a lot of people to thank for their hard work, my team and the Congress, and just so many people, and I look forward to sharing those thanks with you as well. But I'm here today to catch you up on where we are with our thinking and our planning, and talk to you a little bit about next steps. There are a lot of things that we know, but there are a lot of things that are in flux. So bear with us so we can give you the update now. One of my biggest takeaways from our last meeting together was that the community had a long PowerPoint of the things that it wanted to see there. It wanted to see housing, jobs, parks, recreation, sports. And I left there thinking, wow, we want the same things. There's not a lot of space between us, because in 177 acres, we can indeed do it all. We can do all those things. So I want to start today with just a brief history of the RFK campus, because I think sometimes we take for granted that we're starting at the same place with our knowledge of this site. So let me just tell you, back in 1958, the District of Columbia Stadium Act provided authorization to the National Park Service to obtain this property and then build a stadium that could host global-like events. And that stadium would be named after Robert F. Kennedy. Since then, the stadium has been home to many of our teams, sporting events, concerts, and more, including the Washington Senators, who played there from 1961 to 1971. And later, the Washington Nationals played there, where Mayor Williams brought baseball back to D.C. Our soccer teams have played there, including the Diplomats, and most recently, D.C. United played at RFK while we were building their arena. And of course, our football team, our Super Bowl winning football team, played at RFK from 1961 to 1996. We also hosted at that stadium 5 NFC championships. And somebody will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we won 5 NFC championships there. The stadium also hosted the World Cup in 1994, and we have had world-class concerts there, including the Beatles' penultimate concert, Michael Jackson. I think I was in the 8th grade. U2, the Rolling Stones, and Madonna, all at RFK Stadium. So the last lease that the district entered into with MPS was a 50-year lease, and it started in 1988. And that lease was set to expire in 2038. You've also heard me talk about this, that it was a very restrictive lease. It only allowed for a stadium and other recreational uses. So when we were no longer using it as a stadium, We could not, even within the confines of our lease, think to do anything else with it except for very limited recreational uses. The district, because of these limitations, also could not invest a lot of money in it because we could not produce any commercial return on the land other than the recreation uses. So it's been very important for us to think about taking down that what we just heard about, the old RFK Stadium, also repurposing just a sea of parking lots for as far as you can see, and being able to invest district tax dollars to do all of those things. So that's why you have seen that in our neighborhood, a very valuable piece of land, a very valuable river looking over our beautiful Anacostia, it's been crumbling and it's been a sea of asphalt. And if we had not secured that land at the end of the congressional period last December, this would have been the fate of that land for the next 13 years until the lease expires, at least for the next 13 years. But now we have the opportunity to really shape a vision and deliver for the residents of the District of Columbia. So from day one, we have talked about this. In fact, I was recently looking at some speeches that I've given. And in my very first swearing-in speech, I said, we will have a Super Bowl in Washington, D.C. And I believe firmly that in global cities like ours, world-class cities like ours, we do big things. We have arts and culture, entertainment, nightlife, and sports. We have great neighborhoods, great transportation, and we can invite the world to our city. But the fact is, until we have a modern stadium, we will not be able to host events that the world is used to, including the World Cup, including a Super Bowl, and yes, Beyonce and Taylor Swift. So that's what having a new and modern stadium would allow us to do. So the Congress passed the legislation that transferred the land to us in December. But I want you to be clear, because sometimes it's been reported that it was a midnight surprise. But it was a surprise that took 10 years of work. And the legislation went through the House of Representatives in a bipartisan manner, where it had at least 2 hearings, 2 different committees. The legislation went through the Senate and the committee, and what it needed was a vehicle to get to the Senate floor. We thought it would be the CR, but it turned out to be by unanimous consent in their last act. And so we're really, really grateful to Congresswoman Norton, Congressman Comer, Congressman Westerman, and the senators, Senator Schumer, and others who helped get this done for us. The president signed the legislation into law on January 6th, and by January 17th, the Park Service had, with us, made an agreement to transfer the land. And just last week, I think the deeds and everything were recorded, so we actually have those in hand as well. And so that's the process, a long process to get where we are. There are other federal parcels where we have undergone similar transfers with, like St. Elizabeth's, like the Wharf, like Walter Reed. And they may all have a different path, and some have different types of agreements. But they were land deals with the federal government where the district said, you're not doing anything with that land. We can put it to productive use. And when we do, we will create jobs and housing and economic development for the District of Columbia. And that is what we envision for the RFK site. So let me say what the legislation now allows us to do. It continues the purposes that were allowed in the lease, like stadium purposes, commercial and residential development, open space and public outdoor opportunities, and it, of course, allows for the demolition, and it requires 30% of the 177 acres to be used for parks or open space. So this is what we're working on now. You heard from our partners at Events DC, who, as you know, in the neighborhood, managed the RFK site for the city and actually were the leaseholders with the National Park Service. So the demolition is underway, and we are right now engaged with what I call anchor planning. What this site needs is, like most of all of our other large parcels, is it needs an anchor to kickstart the rest of the development. And our vision right now is that anchor would be an NFL stadium. So we are thinking about how it would be situated on the site, and we are thinking about how we would come to terms, what the district would be willing to invest with the Washington Commanders to deliver an NFL stadium to the site. We also are thinking and starting our planning and thoughts about what a park or park uses would look like on the site. We're thinking about how we would deliver for the balance of the parcel for other commercial uses, housing, and entertainment. We are also beginning to consider, and we'll work with your council member on this, you and other things, but you remember probably when I was talking to you 2 years ago, I had introduced to the council and funded a sportsplex for this site. And what that would be is an indoor sporting facility that we would operate with the Department of Parks and Recreation. So in the last couple of budget cycles, those funds were, I think, moved to other uses. So we'll have to work with the council to get the sportsplex refunded. So if things go the way I hope, we will be able to come to terms with a team that's beneficial for the residents of the District of Columbia, which means it's creating jobs and tax revenue and attracting the mix of uses that I know are important. And then we would take that agreement, like we have done with our other sports teams, to the Council of the District of Columbia to approve our plan. So we know, and part of the reason why we're very focused on this right now is because we know it's the right time and we have the right partner. We haven't always been able to say we have the right partner in the Washington football team, but that's changed. And we know that we have an organization that's focused on winning, focused on being good partners with the city, and that's going to, really help us attract other investment. And so that's why we believe we have the right time. Now, we're not the only ones who think that. We think that the football team has choices and has choices in the region, but you've heard me say it many times. We have the best site. Hands down. They've played there, they won there. Our transportation infrastructure is also best suited for a team that's supported by all 8 wards of Washington, D.C., and the entire Maryland, Virginia, Washington, D.C. region. So we also believe this, that it's the fastest and surest route to developing the site with the types of amenities and housing that we all want. What do I mean by that? I started off by saying we have to have an anchor. The same was true when we began developing St. Elizabeth's. We had to have an anchor. And in that case, the district went in first and we built the Care First Arena, which we used to call the Entertainment and Sports Arena. Same is true at Walter Reed, where we needed to have a great grocer. And we went out and attracted Whole Foods. Same is true at the Wharf, where we wanted to have a great music venue, and we made sure that the anthem got there. So we know that large parcels like this need a great anchor, and we believe that developments like this that are anchored by an NFL team are highly successful. So we know that we can do that here too. I guess a year and a half ago or so, we began a sports study, and we pulled together many of those key findings and released it to the community. And the study found that major district sports teams and facilities have supported commercial and real estate development that outpace the rest of the city. So where we have located arenas, other development has followed at a faster pace than when we haven't had a sports facility. It found, too, that anchor sports facilities generate greater localized benefits than if they were on an island. So we know that sports facilities work really well when they can fit into an urban environment. The study gave us more data, too, on what we already knew, that major sports are a significant export of the district's economy. In other words, we see district residents spending their money elsewhere. And the study underscored that housing an NFL franchise is a once-in-a-generation placemaking opportunity. So estimates show that annually it would produce $1.2 billion in economic revenue, more than 2,000 jobs, and nearly $300 million in labor income and $26 million in tax revenue. So I want to just dwell on for a minute a couple of local examples. And one of the most powerful is our own Washington Nationals and the impact that they have had on the Capitol Riverfront. Bringing a stadium there helped attract 6,500 new residences, 85 restaurants, 5 hotels, 6 million square feet of office space, more jobs for DC residents. We were able to develop the waterfront along the Anacostia, and it is a place where people now can exercise, dine out, and enjoy the waterfront. People live there, work there, play there, hang out there, and enjoy a wonderfully mixed-use development. And Nats Park is one of several stadiums in the city that has played an important role in attracting more opportunity for DC. You know the story of Mayor Barry's decision to bring the basketball team and hockey teams to downtown that's now in the Capital One Arena. When I was elected mayor, I worked to get the Audi Field deal done, and now we have 3 teams that play there and sell out on the DC United, the Spirit, and the Defenders. Also, in my first term, as I've already talked about, we made the decision to build a practice facility at St. Elizabeth's, now known as the Care First Arena, where the Washington Mystics won a championship as well. So what I have displayed on the screen are these various opportunities that we have worked on in the city, starting on the top left with Nationals Park. We're also demonstrating that we've gotten to these developments with different models, and you can take a look at what those models are, as well as what the district has contributed. So if you go all the way across, you can see the different deal structures and the amount of investment, including our most recent investment in the transformation of the Capital One Arena. So we also wanted to leave you with a case study, and we'll put it up on our websites, and you can take a look at this, how football stadiums and the modern football stadiums are indeed how they've been built, how they've interacted with the communities, and other activities has evolved over the years as well. So our vision, of course, would be a stadium that would be used for more than football, but for other sporting events and other cultural events as well. And so with that, I want to point you to a website that we put up where we will create space for you to ask questions or leave comments at rfk.dc.gov. So I know that was a lot to say, but I wanted to give you a sense of our planning, where we are, next steps, and some history of where we came from and what we've done as a city to invest in sports. Thank you.
Awesome. Let's give Mayor Bowser another round of applause for sharing her vision. Thank you for sharing your vision for the future of the site and for helping us to reimagine the possibilities of the site. And so now it's our turn to hear from all of you. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. We'll start with our first neighbor on the mic here to my left.
Yeah, my name Michael Nelson, right? And I hear Muriel Bowser up here telling everybody, you know, how she gonna make the money and all that, everything grease in her pocket, right? But you steady robbing the people, right? Now, you put out this little snow thing the other day on the 11th, right? Now, this ain't no snowy community like that. The biggest snow that we had in this community right here was in 1996, right? So let me tell you this. Nah, the problem is her robbing the people. This $250 ticket, and there ain't no snow on the street for her closing the street down. I got a problem with that. Yeah, I got a problem with that.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so we'll make our way to the side.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm going to take just 30 seconds to introduce myself. My name is Tina Short. I'm the first African-American female park ranger in the United States of America. I make that statement because it's Black History, but I'm going to shorten it. I really want to know what is the difference between affordable and unaffordable. Because a lot of stuff that comes up, you say it's affordable, but affordable for who? Affordable for who?
So I didn't address a mix of housing here, Ms. Short, because we haven't really got to that level of planning, but we will. And we know loud and clear, and certainly you know from my 10 years in office, that we have invested more in affordable housing per capita across the nation and more than has ever been invested in this city. When we talk about investments in affordable housing, our target is that people don't spend more than 30% of their income on housing. And that's generally the definition of affordability.
Awesome, thank you.
Hi. Hi, my name's Skip Strobel. I live at Lincoln Park. I'm a native. The one thing I didn't hear you mention was a memorial to Robert F. Kennedy. Now, back in 2017, you said, I am proud to know that Robert F. Kennedy's legacy will continue to live on in Washington, D.C. So, my original question, without being limited to a minute, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here, and Councilman Felder for conducting this forum. I appreciate it. You got balls.
Right. You got balls.
This is an important issue. My question is, after what Councilman Allen said about what you should do first, if there is a plan, a design, a blueprint, what would you like to see at RFK that memorializes Robert F. Kennedy? I understand there was an RFK Democracy Center at one time. So, do you have plans for a memorial, a permanent national memorial to Robert F. Kennedy?
Thank you for that for that question. And the memorial, and as I understand it, is the only memorial to Kennedy in the city, is currently just the naming of the stadium. So there has been no discussion about what a future stadium would be named, but I think there are lots of opportunities on the 177 acres, including, this is, you're shaking your head.
Those stadium names have changed like that.
That's, I was going to say something else, actually, that I think is better. I am very excited by the opportunity to have a beautiful public park there on the river, close to the river. And I think, and I don't want to get too ahead of the discussion, but I think that would be a fitting memorial as well. So we're at the front of this conversation. I don't think we envision, though, again, we're at the beginning of this discussion, a building, but I think that we all agree and have been proud to host the only memorial to RFK in our community, and we should, discuss what we'd like to see moving forward.
DC's website, they actually say to replace the stadium with the memorial to Robert.
It was.
I know that's never going to happen. Okay, but Robert F.
Okay, now I'm going to have to call time.
Yes, we'll move along to our next
Okay.
question.
Hi, my name is Gwen Honeycutt. I live in Kingman Park. My question is, will any property be taken by eminent domain? And if yes, what properties?
No, ma'am. So everything that we've talked about today is on and contained within the site.
Hi, my name is Jeremy Stetton, and I live in Kingman Park, and I am a skateboarder and skateboarding instructor. And I've been skateboarding at Malou Skate Park for 12 years. In that time, seeing how important it is to the skateboarding community. It's the only place where people can skateboard for Ward 6 and 7. We used to have a skate park at Garfield Park, but that was torn down several years ago, and nothing was ever built there. And so I am very nervous as a member of the skateboarding community based on the track record about the future of the skate park and whether there are plans to build another skate park if it is to be torn down, whether it's going to be protected, torn down, and if that's the case, if you're going to build a replacement that's equal in quality and in size, and whether the skateboarding community will be involved in the design decisions of any replacement skate park.
Well, I thank you for that. So we have existing recreation facilities, the fields as well, which we are committed to keep in on ongoing design. So let me be specific and work with my team about the specific needs and size of the skate park.
It's not much.
Okay, I got it. That's even better. And so the other thing that we want, as I already mentioned, to include is an indoor recreation facility for youth sports, indoor youth sports, which is a big gap in our portfolio.
Awesome, thank you. And we'll move along to our next.
Hi, my name is Adam Eidinger. I'm a resident of Ward 2. I lived here most of my life. I have first of all, I want to say congratulations on getting to this point where we can have a discussion about what to do with the RFK site. It is a big accomplishment, and you deserve some praise for that. There are 100 developable acres at RFK after you exclude the protected riverfront area and mandated open space. How many of those acres will be committed to meeting community needs, not sports, private sports arenas or stadium? How much of that? How many acres? And then the second question is, it's typically $1 billion of public money to build a modern stadium in this country, and will you commit to not offering a subsidy?
No.
And will you answer the first question about how many of the 100 acres of developable land will actually be for community needs?
What are you calling community needs?
That could be housing, that could be a skate park, that could be anything that's not the stadium.
Oh, well, the stadium we think will take about 20 acres, 20 to 25 acres. So everything else would fit into one of those categories.
Awesome, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Councilman. Good evening, Ms. Nina, everybody. I'm Commissioner Ashley Renee Ruff. I'm from 7F02. So I hear you, Mayor, when you keep saying an anchor, and I'm not against economical development. Everyone knows that about me. I believe that Ward 7 needs to grow, specifically east of the river. But while we're sitting here asking about anchors, can we anchor a grocery store? Because so that's one question about the grocery store. But when we bring that stadium here, what are they giving back to the children of east of the river as well, too?
First and foremost, Commissioner Ruff, it's always good to see you, and I appreciate your question. From my observation, we are the only ward across the District of Columbia that does not have an anchor. Let me break it down. Ward 1 has Howard University. They're a $1 billion entity. Ward 2 has all the businesses. It's the business district. Ward 3 has all the universities. Ward 4 has Walter Reed. Ward 5 has South Dakota and Brooklyn. Ward 6 has the Ward 8, which at one point people consider Ward 8 behind Ward 7, has superseded us with the grounds of St. Elizabeth and parts of the Navy Yard as well. I say all that to say, by using RFK as an anchor, that will, from my opinion, give us the economic boost that we need to support projects like Capitol Gateway, Fletcher Johnson, our downtown Minnesota Avenue. And it's so easy to bring neighborhood-serving amenities when business folks feel as though they have an anchor to support their business in close proximity. So I say all that to say. So I say all that to say, I'm sure that in addition to identifying other ways to attract grocers, I'm a strong believer that by having a solid anchor, that would also help achieve that goal.
Awesome, thank you. Excuse me, we're gonna only ask questions from the mic. Thank you. Yes, yes.
I was going to say we not about to do that. If you have a question, I strongly encourage you to get in line. We're going to conduct this meeting in a respectful manner.
Thank you, and we'll move. I'm sorry.
Okay, I was just going to jump in because we understand the frustration, ma'am, of not having enough grocery. In our commitment, as you know, we work very hard at Capitol Gateway on a deal that so far has fallen through, I think largely because of the difficulties that some of the retailers have had post-COVID. But we continue to work on it. We're also invested in Minnesota and Benning Avenue on transforming that intersection and the development there that contains the Safeway. So we work on getting a new anchor or transforming the Safeway there while at the same time investing so that we can maintain grocery at the locations that we have it. We're nowhere near satisfied. But what I'm talking about does not preclude a grocery. It makes grocery more likely. When we're able to build more housing, when we're able to create mixes of incomes, when we're able to have daytime traffic and evening traffic, we're more likely to be able to attract grocery. So it is something that Deputy Mayor Albert and I are very focused on, including how to reposition the Capitol Gateway site, because we've made some promises there. I'm disappointed that we're not where we want to be, but we're going to keep working on it.
Good evening, Madam Mayor.
Good evening.
Councilmember Felder, Delia, Deputy Mayor, and my brother Steve. My name is Ambrose Lane Jr. I am a proud Ward 7 resident. I think that this project presents an opportunity if there is the vision to go along with the opportunity. You mentioned a sports complex or a sportsplex. I've heard that you're looking at about 100,000 square feet. That's somewhat comparable to the PG County Sports Complex. I have a 10-year-old son who runs indoor and outdoor track, and right now he has to practice outside in the cold at Banneker Field because there are no indoor tracks. Okay. So a sports complex would be welcome, but I would be remiss if I didn't add certain things that I think need to be on the table, such as the redevelopment of Langston Golf Course, the resurfacing, let me finish. The resurfacing of Kenilworth Park, which could also be a sports venue, the rebuilding or the maintenance of the farmers market. There's also Reservation 13 that has to be talked about in terms of its development. I'm fine with affordable housing as long as we're talking about those other things as well. A 30 to 40% set aside for minority businesses, both at the stadium and in the area. And I think that there can be a grand vision. What I hope does not happen is what happened at Fletcher Johnson. The Fletcher Johnson project is a mess, and we need to revisit the Fletcher Johnson project, even though I love the fact that you want to build a freestanding emergency room there. That we need, but the rest of that project, we need to kick it to the curb and rebuild. So there is an opportunity for this campus in RFK Stadium. Not all stadiums produce economic viability.
And so, Mr. Lane, I'm sorry.
Some stadiums do.
Can we get to the question? We have a lot of people on the line, so
The
thank
question
you.
is, will you embrace a grand vision for the site? Not just put a building up and say it's a sports complex because it's got some basketball courts, but a grand vision, as I outlined, for the site and the corresponding area.
Thank you.
Well, obviously, yes. This is not something, we won't get a chance to do this again, okay? Not for a long, long time. And so in some ways, we have a blank slate. And so, yes, we have the opportunity to make it grand. Absolutely.
Good evening. My name is Jen Jenkins, and I'm a Ward 7 resident. I want to know, how much will the agreement with Senator Mike Lee to pay National Park Service for the value of the land cost, and how are you fulfilling on that?
We expect our agreement with Senator Lee was fair market value for any land that a stadium would sit on. So we're talking about 20 to 25 acres. And we would make investments in park space equal to that amount. And so we will work with the Park Service on how to implement that.
Awesome. We'll move along.
Hi, I'm Lauren Granado, Ward 7 resident and DC Vault member. I'm also a full ride high school scholar.
I am Christian DiNicolantonio. I've been with DC Vault since I was a kid, and now I'm at Catholic University, and I'm a national champion.
And I'm Ashton McCullers. I'm a Ward 5 resident, fourth generation Washingtonian. DC Vault has also given me a lot of opportunities to go to Howard University for free. Yeah, and now I have the university record.
I'm Edward Luthi with DC Vault. I'm the founder and head coach. These are all my critters up front here. Also, the silent one over here, Asha, would you stand up? She won't speak. even to me. But at age 10, she placed fourth in the middle school national championships as an elementary school kid. We are right across the street here, right next to the skate park, right on East Capitol Street. Can't miss us, but somehow we never seem to get mentioned in anything. I see skate park, I see fields, I see everything else, but never the only standalone pole vault training facility in the world that's sanctioned by World Athletics. We host a pole vault championships every June. We've brought in, I think, 14 Olympic athletes, one world champion trained with us for 3 months. We've produced multiple scholarship athletes. I can go on, I won't. We just want to make sure that we're not getting displaced during this process. We have a very small footprint. We're outdoors, we don't take up a lot of space, not a lot of impervious. Events DC has been a huge supporter of us. Can't say enough about those guys. They're wonderful. They've really helped us out. They've really had our back the whole time. Councilman Felder, love him. He's shown so much support and interest in us. Mayor Bowser, I've seen your development around the city. It's great. I am all in favor of the stadium. I want an NFL team. I want to go to the Super Bowl here. I want to see the campus develop. I think it's going to be great. I live just a few blocks over here. I guess the question is, in tandem with the skate park, can organizations like us not get displaced in the process? We just want to have a little foothold somewhere, and we're hoping you could assure that.
I got it. So this is what I like both teams to do, and Deputy Mayor will make it happen, is sit down with us, and I want to understand your needs. Okay? Come on. Yep.
Okay. Mayor Bowser, thank you for coming this evening, listening to us. My name is Bill Sisolak. My wife and I live in the 600 block of A Street Northeast. I'm a former ANC 6C commissioner. We have lived in this neighborhood since 1967 and have owned our home since 1976. So we are well aware of the effect of a former stadium on our neighborhood. While our friends and neighbors in Kingman Park and Ward 7 are affected directly, much of Ward 6 is affected also. My question for you is the following. There are still signs up today that say no parking during RFK events. Those rules were never enforced back then. Will you commit this evening to having an effective, widespread ban on parking through our neighborhood? And that ban is not merely a sign on a post, but that DDOT has enforcement, has tow trucks and ticket, and will ensure that no parking occurs to our friends in Kingman Park, Hill East, and the central area of Capitol Hill. Will you commit to that now, tonight?
Yes, I will. And I do want to say more, and thank you for your firsthand experience and sharing that with us. I do think we have learned since then. And we'll find those parking signs. But I want to say that our experience with Nats Park and the surrounding neighborhood and event parking has been instructive. Our experience with them on our transportation plan about how we can move cars in and out has been instructive as well. We also know and will work very hard with Metro in making sure Metro can support event days. And we are going to work on any development to make sure we have ample parking on site. So we're going to do all of those things. But I think our experience with Nats Park and now with Audi Field, and also we have modified even our event day supports at DDOT for the Cap One Arena. So we're moving vehicles in and out faster. More people are using the Metro, and we're going to ensure that we have ample parking. But your question about enforcement is noted. And we will be prepared in coming meetings to talk about what that package looks like. But we know now what it looks like to be effective with tow trucks in all of the communication necessary.
Awesome, thank you. Hi, thank you. Mayor, I just want to get confirmation on your statement that the residents of Kingman Park from Oklahoma Avenue to 21st Street will not be affected by parking or the stadium building plans as well. And my second question is, as far as Heritage Island and the park, that part of the property, is that going to be affected by this new planning? Or will the community be able to still walk freely? Is that going to be a part of the open space?
Yes, ma'am. In fact, and I should have spent a little bit more time talking about our commitment in the open space is trails, park space, but also better connections to the Heritage Island. So we think it will be an enhancement, more accessibility. What you said about, I don't remember us talking specifically about Oklahoma Avenue. Was that the question about eminent domain that you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am. I'm wondering, I've been hearing various statements about it, and I just want to hear from you. At first you said the stadium will be contained on the lot.
Yes.
But does that include parking for Oklahoma Avenue to 21st Street? That was the land that is where I live in Ward 7, and I was told that that was going to be made a parking lot. So
no.
Okay.
No.
Just wanted to know.
Awesome. Thank you. And just as a reminder, please share your name and your neighborhood before
My
asking
name
your
is
question.
Tanya Claggett. I am a Ward 7 resident. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kingman Park.
Yes.
You got it. Thank you.
Good evening, Muriel Bowser, Councilman. My name is Antonio. I'm a Ward 7 resident. I went to school in this building. This building got me a job over RFK. You see the hat I got on, but that's a subject for another day. The Redskins is a career for somebody that's going to want to do the sports and entertainment industry. Because I work down Capital One, and I get to see everything people pay for. And that's it, that's all. It's a building something for somebody who's trying to graduate from this building, or in general. I've just seen a lot. I done been through a lot. I was going to tell you a whole story, but since I got too little time, I can't and I won't.
Okay.
But Events DC, I'll be ready.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome.
My name's Graham McLaughlin. I live in the Hill East neighborhood. Thanks all of you for your transparency and being here today. Kind of building on the gentleman's question who just asked it, Councilmember Felder, really appreciate even in the first month the energy that you've brought, the constituent services. And one of the things I really appreciated is you talked about jobs for Ward 7 residents and really supporting small businesses. And I'd love to hear just a little bit more of your ideas as we think about what could be with the anchor, how you think about supporting Ward 7 small businesses and jobs.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin, for that question, and it's always good to see you. During my opening remarks, I alluded to the fact that my office is in the process of establishing councils and task force. One of those task force included the Ward 7 Economic Development Advisory Council, which includes subject matter experts in the business community, developers who have projects in Ward 7, as well as inspiring and existing small and local businesses in Ward 7. I'm a firm believer for making sure that we create more opportunities for Ward 7 residents and business owners. When I talk about my Ward 7 overall economic development plan, you cannot talk about that without making sure that small and local business owners who live in Ward 7 and who have business in Ward 7 have a seat at the table. So what we've been focused on, and I just mentioned that we're 7 out of the 8 positions, but it's just been 4 of us. So we're at almost full capacity. But once we get through the budget and oversight hearing season, what I plan to do is convene a meet and greet for small and local businesses or business owners, as well as inspiring business owners, bring DSLBD to the table to make sure we can register folks and we can talk about the opportunities and figure out how I can better support them. Pardon me, I'm sorry, how I can better support them as residents and small business owners in the ward. So be on the lookout for more information to come.
Awesome.
Hi, how you doing, Mayor and family and friends? I'm gonna say this, right? Our door is open. We go big. We build a Super Bowl stadium on an all-time high. We got because we're bringing so much money in this city. If we build a Super Bowl status, you got to remember now, NFL commissioners be looking for stadiums that can bring in that money. So we have to build this. If our architect is not thinking big, then we got to switch that. We got to get an architect that's thinking big. We got to go big. We got A1 credit here. So our credit and our, I ain't got no question, but our credit is good. So we ain't got to worry about no money, where it's going to come from.
Yes.
Let's just build this stadium.
Hold on.
Let's build this stadium Super Bowl status. Because we're not going to just build no RFK and rebuild it.
Awesome.
I may just give you an example, is that when we were looking at the designs for the Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge, okay, I just want to kind of give you what we thinking, how the charge that we would give any architect that works with us is that this stadium will be on the monumental axis in the nation's capital that's built on L'Enfant's plan. Okay, so it has to be big. Not big in terms of size, but the vision of it. And so just the way that our bridge in a pretty short period of time has become iconic local DC, that's the type of architecture we would be looking for a new stadium.
So did y'all bring a picture of the new stadium?
We don't have, that's in concept.
But just the outdoors open, man?
Thank you.
Make this happen.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll move along. Thank you.
Protocol has been established, Mayor, Council Member. My name is Nicothea Boynes Robinson. I am a fourth-generation native Washingtonian. My home address is Rosedale. It is also listed on my birth certificate. I'm here with family members and friends have been here for generations. My concern and question, Mayor, is, and Council Member, Deputy Mayor, and everyone that here has my concern, let me get to that, excuse me. I would like to know, could you increase your vision? We have, in the city of Washington, D.C., at least 20 Olympians that are still living. Some of those Olympians do not play football. They don't play soccer. They are Olympians. Just as you've heard through DC Vault, the champions that they've produced, we have skateboarders that are champions. We have roller skaters that are champions. I am over the Style Skate community, Style Skate Network. We are also a part of a DC Skate Collaborative. We've talked with you a few times about what we would like to see. DC has not had a roller skating rink, proper roller skating rink, in over 30 years. People that have roller skated in this community took their moms, their dads, their children. They were a part of the historical fabric of DC. Calorama Road, and all of those things birth those people that do that. We want to continue in that legacy, and we want to add to what we can become. Yes. We are just not NFL players. We're just not basketball players.
Like to ask
we are Olympians.
Excuse
we are
me.
sports.
Yes,
we are
thank
all
you,
of those
thank
things.
you. Can you please ask your question? We want to make sure that. Okay.
Yes,
Can you include that in your vision?
We've had this conversation perhaps before, and you're quite right. We need a roller skating rink. We need in this city, and this is part of the work we've done around the Capital One Arena discussion that we have. We need to get more family entertainment in our city, and we've had more, and we've had less, but we need to be intentional about more family entertainment. And I put the roller skating rink in that category. So let's figure out how to do it.
We'll be collaborating with the DC Vault as well as
okay, I got it.
About that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now we're going to probably have to do some speed questions for the remaining questions. Okay. All right. Go ahead, please.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for hosting. My name is Tudor Stanchu. I live in Trinidad. My kids grew up in D.C. I'm with Washington Capital United. Two quick questions. One is, I know you mentioned that you are committing to the fields at RFK. Those are for our sustainability as a nonprofit organization with 300 families living in the city is huge, and I echo DC Vault and other youth organizations. So the first question is, what is the timeline, and are the fields going to stay? And if the fields are going to stay, how is the development impacting? Is there a break in the operation?
Well, you're a little bit ahead of us in our planning, so I can't speak to that, but I will make the commitment that we will minimize any disruption as much as we can. And while I have talked today about like what I see as our first path, and that first path is to get our team back to play and to develop the balance. But we will also have a plan if that doesn't happen, and we're still going to develop our 177 acres. So we will, as we get a little bit further in our thinking and planning and how each piece fits together, we will be able to answer that question a little bit better.
Awesome, thank you. And just as a reminder, we do want to get to everyone, or try, so please, as Mayor Bowser mentioned, we need, please try to speed up your questions. We'll move along.
Good evening, panel. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Nephew. Councilmember Felder. Councilmember Felder pretty much answered my question about the economic development that's going to be taking place. Great idea, and I look forward to being involved with that. I am a local business owner on Minnesota and Benning Road, Ward 7. Been there for 5 years, brick and mortar, but I've been a vendor right down the corner for over 25 years. So I plan on, and they're about to do a lot of grand development on that particular corner, and I hope I'm not displaced. But my question is, will there be opportunities for Ward 7 business owners at this particular stadium site?
Got it. And so we will absolutely be working to make sure our local businesses are included and are part, not just once it's delivered, but during the demolition process, the construction process, and any ancillary development. So absolutely. We, as we've seen in our other projects, we have by law a certain amount of local small business participation in all of these phases. And then we would be working with the operator on like the retail spaces, the restaurants that would come in all of those things. So as we, and maybe in preparation for our next meeting, we'll start thinking about what that outreach for small businesses looks like, what it looks like for our youth sports participants, and what, our park users, and so that we can have some more intense planning leading up to our final vision.
Awesome, thank you.
I'm sorry, my name is Andre Lighthill.
All right, nice to meet you.
All right.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Ebony Payne, ANC Commissioner for Kingman Park and the RFK campus. Thank you. I wanted to get clarification on what environmental impact assessments can we expect to be done in the future. There seems to be some confusion that if it's just a stadium that's built, then there's no environmental impact assessment done, but if there's other types of development like residential or commercial, then there will be one done. Can you clarify that? And can you also clarify if the 20 to 25 acres that you expect the stadium to take up will include parking, and what the plan for parking is? You mentioned you don't want to see lots of surface parking lots. My concern is around garages and whether that is going to conflict with the NFL's culture of tailgating. And then also, I thought
we're going to have to keep it to the one or two questions, just to make sure we can get through all the questions.
Just let's let her wrap up.
Okay,
you can wrap up.
Can you please give a yes or no? I thought I heard you say you would commit to keeping the fields at RFK. Can you give us a yes or no if that is the case tonight?
I've said that many times, and it will be part of our planning. Your question was around, would it be surface parking or garages? We would want to use garages because we will want to maximize the space. And what was the first question? The environmental impacts. Now you're going to be testing my memory here, but there will be all the necessary environmental impacts will be conducted. Part of our responsibility in the legislation is that DC is responsible for any environmental cleanup or assessment. There are federal processes that we have to work through with the National Park Service and cement those in an MOU related to the environmental assessments. And I do not think that I want to be very clear on my terminology. So I'll have the team get back to you on what the requirements are for the pre-lease uses. In other words, it was a stadium, and if it's going to be a stadium there again, what are the necessary environmental studies? Which, I think that's the nexus of your question. So let me get that clarified for you.
And if I may, I just want to add to Mayor Bowser, and her memory is excellent, but I just want to add in regards to the environmental assessment, Events DC conducted an extensive environmental assessment. That information is available. It's online. It's a public document. We had to work with EPA, and I remember working with you before, and so I'll make sure that the team can provide that information for you. Okay? Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Rodefer. I live in Southwest DC. Mayor Bowser, you have signed legislation and issued plans, such as the one you issued in Dubai, saying that DC is going to transition off of fossil fuels and reach carbon neutrality in 20 years. Despite this, we've seen plans such as the ones you mentioned at Walter Reed and the new hospital at St. Elizabeth's. These projects include on-site fossil fuel burning power plants to produce electricity to serve the site. That's totally in conflict with laws you've signed and plans you yourself have issued. So my question is, at whatever development comes at RFK, whether it's housing, a stadium, a grocery store, anything, will you commit tonight that it will be consistent with your climate commitments that require these buildings to be net zero, which means they're super energy efficient, they maximize renewable energy, and they do not burn fossil fuels?
We're not at that level of planning. You have a question?
Yeah, my name's Trey Sherrod. I am here with a few different hats on. I'm a board member for the Friends of Kingman and Heritage Islands. I am a Ward 7 resident in Kingman Park. I rent, so I'm really hoping that I don't get displaced either, and I foresee that happening. And I'm here for work as the riverkeeper at Anacostia Riverkeeper. I wanted to set some context, especially as we talk about parking decks, as we talk about future use of the site. I appreciated the past-looking context in the presentation, but 1958 isn't really far enough. The entire campus that we're talking about was marsh as of about 120 years ago. It was wet, and that was before sea level rise. The dirt that it was filled in with to bring it up to the level it is now, speaking of that environmental assessment you mentioned, the problem with only doing an environmental assessment and not a full environmental impact statement is that you miss things. And Events DC will remember that they went severely over budget.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want to be mean, but can you get to your question,
because of
please?
all the lead.
Yes.
And the EA was not sufficiently testing the area. They found magnitudes more lead in the soil than they expected based on the EA. I would like to know from the mayor, what are your assurances that we're going to get a full environmental impact statement on this to avoid cost overruns, to avoid planning delays, to avoid some of the issues we saw with a project as simple as the fields, where Events DC forced a synthetic field down the throat of the community?
I'm happy to come back to the community with a kind of full breakdown of the environmental studies that will be required for the entire site, with an NFL stadium or without an NFL stadium. So here's the bottom line, guys, and I appreciate the questions and the concerns. But we're going to develop 177 acres there. It's going to be with an NFL stadium or without, but we're going to develop it. We need to develop it. We do not have a city where we can forego on bringing those parcels to productive use. We don't have it. So and I appreciate everybody's question. We're concerned about the environment too. You think that we don't want to have like a safe development there? You think that that's not what we want? So I don't think that we're going to walk into with the Sierra Club's question or with the question that just came up that is going to, you think it'll torpedo us building a stadium? Guess what? If we can't, we wouldn't be able to build anything if that was the case. That's not what we want. So as we think about our city and how we have to grow, we have to grow. We have to have more businesses and residents and economic activity. We need to grow. And we need to bring this land into productive use. Okay, what's next?
Hi, Andrew Chung. I live in 7D, just a couple blocks south of here. Now I'm just average Joe, and I heard a lot of numbers go by, and you seem to have built an argument for investing in this development and tracking it with other developments of stadiums and arenas in the city. Now, I think I heard that it's projecting $1 billion in annual revenue, and which sounds really optimistic. And at the cost of NFL stadiums, like $1 billion. So what I hear is you get 100% return in a 1-year investment. And so you've quoted the NFL stadium in Minnesota. I'm just wondering, can you share, for some of us who have questions about the economics of NFL stadium builds that have 8 to 10 events in a year, how does the city kind of come up with the economics of it, or help convince those of us who, at least I just quickly Googled economics of an NFL stadium, and overwhelmingly it seems to be disadvantageous to public funding. So, yeah, can you share your data of how you arrived at this?
Yes,
yeah.
we produced an economic impact statement, and we'd be happy, if it's not on our website yet, we'll put it on there. And it's a detailed analysis of why we think it's beneficial. Let me say, for one, we would not be building a stadium that would only be used 8 or 10 times. That would have many uses, from soccer to concerts to the NCAA to wrestling, which is very popular. So we would not be looking for a stadium that only had 10 events. More than that, we wouldn't be looking for a stadium that's only surrounded by parking lots. We would be looking to energize the entire site with other uses that would attract people year-round and on non-event days for the stadium. Yep, I'd be happy to.
Thank you. Mike Lazewski, Ward 6 resident, lived in the district now for about 17 years, and thank you to the mayor for making sure the district has autonomy over this land. That's a huge victory.
Yep.
I was at the last Nationals home game at the old RFK, and Teddy won that race. But I'm very opposed to public funding for stadiums, and I'm very disappointed that we're going to be using taxpayer funds to support the stadium. Billionaires should be paying for their own stadium. But I understand that there's supposed economic investment in return. So what I'm wondering is, how much taxpayer money do we have to invest in the stadium before we restore circulator bus service? Before we are able to have the roads clear of ice and snow on a regular basis. And before we get to DPW, to not skip tax collection or trash collection days.
Okay, who's next?
Yes, over here.
I'm not going to answer the question because he walked away from the mic. That's why. So next question.
Yes.
I'm not.
We're going to go
I'm
to
not.
the, if we can.
Okay, you.
One second, guys. We want to make sure we maintain our respect throughout this evening,
Well,
so thank you.
that's gone out the window. So what, you want to know about trash collection? Your trash was missed? That is what he said.
All right. Oh, okay, awesome. We'll move along to our next neighbor.
Hi, my name's Gabe Pincus. I live in Hill East. I want to follow up on concerns about parking. So you mentioned in response to a previous question about providing ample parking on site, and the ANC commissioner asked about that as well, the on-site parking. So you also said that you hope to host a Super Bowl, which requires at least 35,000 parking spaces within 1 mile of the stadium. That's 50 acres of 5-story parking garages, not surface parking. So the stadium you cited as an example in Minnesota also has a lot of parking garages surrounding it. So I wanted to sort of repeat the question that the commissioner asked before. When you say that the stadium would only take 25 acres, are you accounting for parking? And if not, how much additional land do you expect to use for parking, especially in such a neighborhood that's so well connected to transit and pedestrian?
I don't know the exact acreage for parking, but I think that the 20 to 25 is the stadium only. So there would be some additional space needed for parking.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll move along.
Beyond the 50, somewhere like.
Beyond what?
So 35,000 parking spots would be 50
I don't know where
acres.
you got that from.
That's the NFL's requirements for Super Bowls.
I don't know where you got that from.
The NFL website.
Well, no, we will not be advocating for 35,000 spaces. And I'm pretty sure that the NFL, let's just be clear. That Super Bowl will be coming to that site if we have a stadium there. I want to be perfectly clear about that.
Hi, my name is Kate Goodlow. I'm a resident of Capitol Hill for 14 years, and I'm here because I'm focused on youth sports.
Okay.
I'm a mom of 2 boys, both very sporty, 7 and 10, and I'm at the fields 5 days a week in the spring and in the fall. Because it's winter, I'm there 2 nights a week, and that's just for soccer. My kids also play baseball. I would love a track facility for my oldest. I am concerned about the effect of any development on the facilities we have now that are being used by the community right now. The fields are packed every night. It's multiple soccer teams out there all trying to get in a workout. My kids learn lessons at the soccer field and on the baseball field that they don't learn in school about leadership, about perseverance. And I've heard you say tonight that you're committed to looking at the fields as you consider development here. But I'm particularly concerned about the impact of any construction on the fields during the multi-year process that you've laid out.
Yeah.
And so are you committed to working not just with the teams that practice there, but with the parents and other community members who use this facility now to ensure that the disruption to that very much used facility is not changing the sort of sports that we enjoy as a family? My kids can't just pause their soccer year. They can't just reset their Little League year. They're going to grow up, and I want them to be playing sports as they do.
I'm not sure I understand your question, ma'am. Are you saying that, I mean, I think I answered that question, so I'm not sure I understand. Are you asking, is there going to be no disruption to the field?
I know that no disruption might be
Okay.
overly optimistic, but I'm asking, are you going to work with the people who use the fields, the families and the clubs that use the fields, to work out how to minimize any disruption during construction?
Okay, I've already said that. Yes. I'll say it again.
Awesome. We'll move along. And
Good evening. My name is Sheridan Fuller. I'm a resident in the Parkside Mayfair neighborhood. My question is, two quick questions. The first one is, I understand the economic plan outlines what the potential revenues are, but I recognize that that's also not a guarantee per se.
Correct.
Are you considering models similar to how Arlington worked with Amazon to condition any of the subsidization on realized tax revenue or other economic benefits? And then also, as the council member can probably attest, there's a lot of developments that have taken place, but the infrastructure investments to support them, such as neighborhoods and roads, hasn't gone aligned with that. What is the plan for ensuring the infrastructure to support the development at the RFK site will consider not just what happens in Kingman Park neighborhood, but the broader Ward 7 ecosystem to ensure that there's the actual support to be able to move people in and out to sustain, visiting whatever development is there?
Yep, that's a very important question, and it's key to how everything works. And so the transportation plans and the infrastructure plans, and keep in mind, I said at the top, we're at the start of this, so I don't want to lead you to believe that it's all done and worked out. We're still considering that, but that is hugely important for a project to work.
And I may add, I mentioned this during my opening remarks, that I've been meeting with key DC government agencies and quasi-government agencies. So I've had conversations with WMATA. Folks may be aware, Ward 7, we have 4 metro stations in the ward. We have Dingwood, Minnesota Avenue, Benton Road, Stadium Armory. I've talked to WMATA also about putting another entrance at Oklahoma Avenue where the streetcar stops. I've also been pushing DDOT to see what we can do to expand the streetcar to Benton Road. So I say all that to say I'm thinking just as much as you are how we can connect the ward and make sure that we have the transportation and infrastructure needed to support not only future developments at RFK site, but across the ward in its entirety.
Good evening. My name is Jimmy Williams. I am a 25-year resident of Penn Branch and Ward 7. I'm also president and CEO of the Washington Literacy Center. My question is about jobs for the low income, employment opportunities for the low income, and workforce training for those struggling with basic skills. And will this stadium bring opportunities for those really operating in Ward 7 and Ward 8 at the lowest economic strata and struggling with reading other opportunities? And before you answer, I do want to thank you for the sensitivity of coming out here to hear what residents have to say about the stadium. But again, it's really about the low income, low income and training for people, workforce training opportunities for people that I serve in all 8 wards, but especially in Wards 7 and 8. And nonprofits like ours are really struggling to hold on now. So thank you.
So some of you will recall when Nats Park opened that there was a huge commitment to workforce training and hiring from the community. And I have to commend the Nats for their work in that. A lot of people in our communities are support from construction to concessions to parking to security. A lot of job opportunities are created with a stadium development. So I'm sure there are things that we can learn from their experience and make it even better. Because actually sometimes when you go to these different venues, you see a lot of the same people working. From venue to venue all over the region. So we know that that is an opportunity. Some people do it as their only work, some people do it part-time, but it creates opportunities for people to work.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Yesenia Sanchez. I've been living in Washington, D.C. since 2005. I used to live in Ward 2, now I live in Ward 7. My questions were stolen, but I just want to make one comment and one question at the same time. In 2010, 2011, I was part of the renovation, back on the days named Redskins, now Commanders. When we did the Platinum Stadium, I used to work for Clark Construction. And I'm saying this because I would love for you guys to take this in consideration. When we did the renovation for that Platinum parking lot, we also partnered with NRG, Solar, they were from Texas. And what they did, they create power, they generated power in the stadium. At some point they thought, and I don't know if that was done at the end, but the intent was that they were gonna let the stadium with that powers that we did, and also to provide power to the city and some of the people that live nearby. My point is we also built in the plans there were a quarterback and a receiver to be built. Due to the budget, we only did the quarterback. We couldn't afford to get the receiver. If you go to the stadium, you're gonna see it. My point that I'm trying to make to you guys is picking the right partner is important when you build a building or a stadium. Would you please, we talk about energy, we talk about parking and all that. Would you please consider, and if you don't have the answer right now, I really understand, but could you please consider the right partner when it comes to solar, when it comes to energy? Because I feel like at some point we can, all of us in the community, be beneficial for that point if you try in the future to sell that at lower cost for the community right here or the DC.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for that comment.
So, the question is, I have the question, sorry about that. Being in construction for such a long time, and if you answered that, I apologize, but do you know the length of the construction? I know that you're gonna build this in phases, but is that gonna be like a 5-6 years from the start date? Or do you guys don't know that yet?
We don't know. We don't know that yet.
Awesome.
Okay, I have to move on to the next question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is George Hurst. I'm a Washingtonian, and I graduated from out this school here, Eastern High School. What my issue is, you all talking about building a stadium here, and you need to be looking at replacing DC General Hospital by closing, just break down the DC jail and build a new DC General Hospital. Then you have your football team, because health comes first in this world. And if you ain't, we gotta travel out to Maryland and up in Georgetown.
Well, sir,
and things
you
like
would
that.
be happy. Can I jump in here? You're going to be happy to know that we are opening Cedar Hill Regional Medical Center in April, and that you don't. And it's going to be located on the St. Elizabeth's campus in Ward 8.
That's on the other side. What about Ward 6?
Awesome.
That would be like me saying, what about Ward 4 that doesn't have a hospital? Every ward doesn't have a hospital. Every ward, we wouldn't be able to support a hospital in every ward. So that's just not a reasonable thing to expect. But we have created a beautiful new hospital that we're looking forward to opening, that is going to serve not just Ward 6, not just Ward 8, not just Ward 7, but it's going to serve Washington, D.C.
Awesome, thank you. We have a few more to get through, so we'll...
Thank you. Thank you for your question, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about Cedar Hill. Okay.
Hi, my name's Becky Levin. I live a few blocks away. I'm a 20-year resident of Capitol Hill, and my 6-year-old attends Payne Elementary School just a few blocks away. There are about 4 other elementary schools within walking distance of here. There's a middle school right behind us, and of course, we're in a high school. there are a lot of children and a lot of families who walk in this neighborhood. I think it's one of the things we all enjoy about this neighborhood. I'm really concerned about the traffic that would be in this area with a very large football team and a huge stadium. 19th Street was just reduced from 2 lanes to 1 lane. And I live on Independence Avenue, and it is insane already during traffic. So I'm wondering, what is your team going to do to ensure that parents will have walkable routes to schools, that their children will be safe, and then we can also be included in the process as traffic patterns and routes are determined?
I appreciate that. And as I mentioned, kind of that traffic planning is a very important part of the process. And we will be developing those traffic plans to present to the community.
All right, we have these two on this side. One more? Awesome, thank you.
Hi, my name's Harper Scott Martin. Born and raised in D.C., lived in Kingman Park for the last 5 years. I was wondering if an infill metro station at Oklahoma Avenue has been considered as part of this development process, regardless of what is built.
We certainly are in discussion with Metro about, regardless of what is built, what if any improvements are needed to existing Metro facilities. So yes, we are considering and making sure we have the Metro support that we need.
I appreciate you coming to our meeting, and we hosted you in October of 2023. Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Felder, for being active and coming to our neighborhood. We appreciate it. Now, we're going to hold you accountable in Kingman Park. You agreed that we were going to have a seat at the table. None of our houses are going to be taken. We're going to make sure, you said you're going to make sure parking, our neighborhood is not going to be affected by parking issues, noise, and pollution mitigation. And we definitely want to continue to have a seat at the table. We appreciate you coming out tonight, and we want you to make sure you honor that commitment to Kingman Park and the surrounding community, because it's critical. We don't want it to be displaced. My family have been in Kingman Park over 85 years, and I want to continue to raise my family and other families continue to thrive and live in Kingman Park and in the District of Columbia. We appreciate you, and we want that commitment from you to our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you again.